I thought I had everything figured out. 3 years of marriage to David, and on the surface, we looked perfect. The beautiful suburban house, the successful careers, the envy of our friends. But I'd been feeling it for months, that cold distance settling between us. I'd catch him smiling at his phone late at night, taking calls in another room, coming home with excuses that sounded too rehearsed. Who were you talking to? I asked one evening. Just work stuff, he said, not meeting my eyes. At 11 p.m.? He sighed. Emma, you're being paranoid. But when I mentioned Rachel, his ex-girlfriend, he'd laugh it off completely. You're being crazy, he'd say, making me feel insane for questioning him. But I wasn't crazy. I was right. Sophie, my best friend since college, believed me. We met for coffee on a Tuesday morning, and I poured everything out. Trust your gut, she said, reaching across the table. If something feels wrong, it probably is. That same week, I found them. 7 hotel receipts hidden in his car's glove compartment. Different hotels over 4 months. My hands shook as I photographed each one, the evidence burning into my mind. When I confronted him that evening, David didn't even try to deny it properly. What are these? I demanded, throwing the receipts on the kitchen counter. He glanced at them, then at me. It's complicated. Complicated? My voice rose. That's all you have to say? Emma, just let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? He ran his hand through his hair. I don't know what you want me to say. Something inside me snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't scream anymore. I just smiled and said, we're still having the Halloween party this weekend, right? He looked confused. What? Yeah, I guess. Good, I said calmly. I already ordered my costume. The next 3 days passed in a fog of rage and calculation. Sophie came over while David was at work, and I told her everything. The hotels, the lies, the gaslighting. What are you going to do? She asked, her eyes wide with concern. I pulled out the package that had arrived that morning. Inside was a red devil costume that left almost nothing to the imagination. Complete opposite of everything I normally wore. Sophie's jaw dropped. Emma. I'm going to give him a show he'll never forget, I said. Are you sure about this? This could end your marriage. I laughed bitterly. The marriage ended the first time he checked into a hotel with her. The costume arrived on Friday. When I tried it on, I barely recognized myself. The woman in the mirror was bold, dangerous, someone who wouldn't let anyone make her feel small. I practiced my smile, the way I'd touch someone's arm while talking, the laugh that would carry across a room. David had always loved how classy I was, how I never drew attention to myself. Tonight, I'd be the opposite of everything he wanted me to be. Sophie brought wine over that evening, and her boyfriend Tom joined us. Look, Tom said carefully, I get that you're angry, but is this really the way to handle it? I poured myself another glass. He's been humiliating me for months. He deserves to see what it feels like. Sophie looked worried but didn't argue. Just be careful, okay? I will, I promised, though I wasn't sure I meant it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining David's face when he saw me, when he realized what I was doing. Would he stop me? Would he even care? Part of me hoped he would. Part of me hoped he wouldn't. Saturday evening arrived too quickly and not fast enough. I spent hours getting ready, applying makeup heavier than I'd ever worn, styling my hair in loose waves. When I finally put on the costume, my heart pounded. The red fabric clung to every curve, the neckline plunged scandalously low, and the skirt barely covered anything. I looked like someone's fantasy. Someone's mistake. Perfect. I heard David downstairs greeting early arrivals. His friend Ryan had come to help set up, along with David's sister Claire. I took a deep breath and descended the stairs. The conversation stopped. Ryan's jaw actually dropped. Claire's eyes widened. And David's face went through 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Emma, he said slowly, what are you wearing? I smiled sweetly. My Halloween costume. You like it? The doorbell rang before he could respond. More guests began arriving. Jake, a photographer friend with a reputation as a flirt. Marcus, a divorced attorney I'd met at a work conference. Various neighbors and friends. I greeted each one with enthusiasm, noticing how the men's eyes lingered, how the women whispered. David stood across the room, jaw tight, watching me with barely contained fury. Good. Let him feel what I felt. Sophie arrived with Tom, both dressed as vampires. She pulled me aside immediately. You look, wow, are you okay? I nodded, taking champagne from a passing tray. I've never been better, but my hands were shaking. Melissa, our nosy neighbor, was already taking photos. The music got louder, drinks flowed freely, and I felt myself transforming. Someone who didn't care about being proper, someone who wanted to hurt the way she'd been hurt. David approached me, his voice low and dangerous. We need to talk now. I laughed and turned away. We'll talk later. I have guests to entertain. I'd been nursing the same champagne glass for an hour, wanting control while appearing carefree. Jake found me near the kitchen, camera around his neck. Emma, you look incredible tonight. That costume is, wow. I could see the interest in his eyes. Want to test it? I asked, my voice carrying just loud enough. Test it? He repeated, confused. I gestured to the costume. See if it's party-proof. Dance-proof. You know. I was making it up as I went, but Jake didn't seem to mind. He took my hand and spun me around, laughing. I could feel David's eyes burning into my back from across the room. Marcus joined us, drink in hand. This is quite a party, Emma. David's a lucky man. The irony made me want to scream. Instead, I smiled. Am I the lucky one, or is he? I touched Marcus's arm lightly. Why don't you help me test if this costume is as comfortable as it looks? Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. How would I do that? I laughed, the sound foreign to my own ears. Dance with me. Tell me if the fabric moves right, if it's practical for a party. What I was doing was absurd, I knew that. But it felt good to see David's discomfort, to watch him try to maintain composure while I flirted openly. Claire approached him, gesturing toward me urgently. David's face grew darker. Ryan joined them, putting a hand on David's shoulder, probably trying to calm him down, but I wasn't done. Not even close. Jake took several photos of me with Marcus, then with other guests. Each flash felt like a small victory. Evidence of my own, a record that would exist forever. You seem different tonight, Marcus said as we danced. More free. I leaned closer, whispering, maybe I've just been caged for too long. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw David pushing through the crowd toward us. My heart raced. This was it, the moment I'd been both dreading and anticipating. David grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. Kitchen, now. His voice was barely controlled rage. I allowed him to pull me away from Marcus, who looked uncomfortable but didn't intervene. Sophie's eyes followed us with concern. In the kitchen, away from most guests, David released my arm and stepped back, chest heaving. What the hell do you think you're doing? He hissed. I leaned against the counter, trying to appear calm even though my heart hammered. I'm testing my costume. Isn't that what I said? David's eyes flashed. You're making a fool of yourself, of us. Everyone's talking about you. I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. Now you care about how things look? That's interesting, he stepped closer. What's that supposed to mean? This was the moment. I could back down, apologize, pretend tonight was just too much alcohol and bad judgment. Or I could burn it all down. I found the hotel receipts, David. All 7 of them. The color drained from his face. Emma, don't! I cut him off. Don't you dare try to explain or minimize it. You've been sleeping with Rachel for months. Months. While I was here, being the perfect wife, you were... My voice cracked despite my best efforts. You made me feel crazy for suspecting. You gaslit me, lied to me, humiliated me. David's expression shifted from shock to something like guilt, then to defensiveness. So this is what, revenge? You're going to throw yourself at every man at this party? Why not? I shot back. You didn't think about me when you were with her. Why should I think about you now? He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing. This is different. What you're doing out there is exactly what you deserve to watch, I interrupted. You want to talk about humiliation? Try finding out your husband has been lying to your face for months. Try seeing hotel receipts and knowing he chose someone else over you again and again. Claire appeared in the doorway. Everything okay in here? Her eyes moved between us, reading the tension. We're fine, David said tightly. No, I said simultaneously. We're really not. Claire looked at her brother with disappointment. What did you do, David? The kitchen had become the epicenter of our collapsing marriage. Claire crossed her arms, vampire costume somehow making her look more authoritative. Someone better start explaining. David opened his mouth, but I beat him to it. Your brother has been having an affair with his ex-girlfriend, Rachel, for months. Claire's eyes went wide, then narrowed at David. Tell me she's lying. The silence was damning. Oh my God, David, how could you? Ryan appeared next, followed by Sophie and Tom. Our private confrontation was rapidly becoming public, which felt oddly appropriate. Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes, and suddenly I understood. You knew, I said, my voice flat. Didn't you, Ryan? He shifted uncomfortably. David, I told you to end it. I told you what you knew. Claire's voice rose. You knew he was doing this to Emma and you said nothing? The kitchen felt too small, too hot. I pushed past them back into the party. The music still played, people still laughed and danced, oblivious to the drama unfolding. Marcus found me immediately. Are you all right? You look upset, I shook my head. I'm fine. Better than fine. Dance with me again? He hesitated, glancing past me to where David had emerged from the kitchen, looking thunderous. Emma, maybe, please, I said. And maybe something in my voice convinced him because he took my hand. Jake joined us, and suddenly I was surrounded by men while my husband watched from across the room. I'd created the exact scenario I'd planned, but it felt hollow now. Empty. What was I trying to prove? That I could hurt him the way he hurt me? That I could make him jealous? David was already moving toward us when Sophie intercepted him. I couldn't hear what she said, but whatever it was made David stop in his tracks. Melissa, the neighbor, was definitely recording on her phone now. By tomorrow, this would be all over the neighborhood. My reputation, my dignity, everything I'd carefully built over the years was crumbling in real time. And the worst part? I didn't even care anymore. Let them watch. Let them judge. They hadn't lived my humiliation. The party continued around us like some twisted theater production. I found myself on the couch, Marcus on one side and Jake on the other, both trying to make me laugh while I could see David across the room, nursing a drink and glaring. Claire had cornered him, clearly giving him a piece of her mind. Ryan looked miserable, caught between loyalty to his friend and knowing what David had done was wrong. Emma, Marcus said quietly. I don't know what's going on between you and David, but this doesn't seem like you. He was right, of course. This wasn't me. The real me was at home in yoga pants, reading a book, not draped over other men in a costume that left nothing to the imagination. But the real me had gotten me nowhere except heartbroken and betrayed. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think, I replied. But my heart wasn't in it anymore. Sophie sat down on my other side, physically inserting herself between Jake and me. Okay, that's enough. Tom, can you get Emma some water? She turned to me, her voice low. You've made your point. Everyone here knows something's wrong. What happens next? I didn't have an answer. I'd been so focused on making David suffer that I hadn't thought about what came after. I can't stay married to him, I said, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. I know, Sophie said gently. But destroying yourself won't fix what he broke. David was suddenly standing in front of us. We need to talk. Really talk. Upstairs. I looked up at him, this man I'd promised to love forever, and felt nothing but exhaustion. Fine. We climbed the stairs to our bedroom, still filled with photos of happier times, and David closed the door. For a moment, we just stood there. I'm sorry, he finally said. I know that's not enough, but I am. It started as just coffee with Rachel, talking about old times, and then it became more, and I didn't know how to stop it. You didn't want to stop it, I corrected. There's a difference. He flinched but didn't argue. What I did tonight, I began, was meant to hurt me, David finished. I know, and it did. But Emma, we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. I stared at David, truly seeing him for the first time in months. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about one night or one mistake. You chose to betray me over and over. Every time you called Rachel, every hotel room, every lie, those were choices. You didn't slip and fall into an affair. You walked into it with your eyes open. David sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. I know I did. But I love you, Emma. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. Do you? I asked. Because love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't make someone feel crazy for trusting their instincts. Love doesn't involve hotel receipts and secret phone calls. The fight seemed to drain out of him. What do you want me to say? That I'm a terrible person? Fine, I am. But tonight, what you did tonight, don't you dare, I cut him off. Don't you dare try to make me the villain here. Yes, I went too far. Yes, I humiliated both of us. But I didn't cheat. I didn't break our vows. I flirted with some men at a party while my cheating husband watched. That's nothing compared to what you've done. A knock on the door interrupted us. Claire opened it without waiting for permission. Rachel's downstairs, she said, her voice tight. She just showed up. My blood ran cold. What? David looked as shocked as I felt. I didn't invite her. I swear, Emma, I didn't, but I was already moving past Claire down the stairs. The party had gone quiet. In the middle of our living room stood Rachel, dressed in a black cat costume, looking around with a smile that died when she saw me. Emma, she said, trying for friendly. Quite a party. I descended the stairs slowly, aware that every eye was on us. Sophie moved to my side immediately. You have exactly 10 seconds to leave my house, I said, my voice steady despite the rage coursing through me. Rachel's smile turned cruel. Your house? David told me you two were having problems. You thought what? I demanded, stepping closer. That you could just walk in here and take him? That I'd just step aside? Rachel glanced past me to where David had appeared on the stairs. David, you said... I said we were having problems, David interrupted, coming down quickly. Not that you should show up at our house, Rachel's confident expression faltered. But you said you were going to tell her. That you were going to leave. The room erupted. Claire gasped. Sophie's hand found mine, squeezing tight. Marcus and Jake exchanged uncomfortable glances. And me? I felt oddly calm, like I'd been underwater and suddenly broke the surface. You were going to leave me? I asked David, my voice eerily quiet. He looked between Rachel and me, trapped. I didn't say that exactly. Yes, you did, Rachel insisted, her face flushing. Last week at the Harbor Inn, you said you were done pretending. The Harbor Inn, I repeated. That was last week? I thought the last hotel receipt was from 3 weeks ago. I laughed, the sound harsh. Were there more, David? More hotels, more lies? David's face had gone pale. Emma, please, answer me! I shouted, and the entire room flinched. How many times? How many hotels? I don't know, he admitted quietly. Maybe 15, 20? The number hit me like a physical blow. 15 to 20 times. Months of deliberate betrayal. Sophie's arm went around my shoulders. Everyone needs to leave, she announced to the room. Party's over. People began moving, grabbing coats, whispering to each other. Melissa was definitely still recording. Tomorrow's gossip would be legendary. I didn't care. You too, I told Rachel. Get out of my house. She looked at David, waiting for him to defend her, but he said nothing. You deserve each other, she spat at him before storming out. Claire approached me carefully. Emma, I'm so sorry. If I'd known, it's not your fault, I assured her. Your brother made his choices. I looked at David, standing in our ruined living room, surrounded by Halloween decorations that seemed grotesquely cheerful now. I want you out. Tonight. 3 months later, I sat in Sophie's apartment signing the last of the divorce papers. David hadn't fought it. After that Halloween night, after Rachel exposed the full extent of his lies, there wasn't anything left to fight for. He'd moved in with Ryan temporarily. Rachel, according to Claire, had moved on to someone else almost immediately. David had lost everything for an affair that meant nothing. How do you feel? Sophie asked, handing me tea. I thought about it. Free, sad, angry, relieved, all of it at once. The neighborhood had talked for weeks. Melissa's videos had spread, though she'd eventually taken them down after Claire had a pointed conversation with her. Marcus had called once, making sure I was okay, which I appreciated. Jake had sent flowers with a note. You deserved better. I did deserve better. And that Halloween night, as destructive and messy as it was, had shown me that. I'd seen my own capacity for revenge, for hurting someone the way they'd hurt me. It wasn't pretty. I wasn't proud of how I'd acted. But I also wasn't sorry for exposing David's lies, even if I'd done it in the worst way possible. What now? Sophie asked. I smiled, this time genuine. Now I figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be the perfect wife to someone who didn't deserve it. I'd started therapy, enrolled in a painting class I'd always wanted to take, and reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage. The woman in the red devil costume had been a destructive force, but she'd also been honest in a way I hadn't been in years. Maybe I didn't need to be that extreme again, But I could hold on to her honesty, her refusal to accept less than she deserved. That Halloween night had destroyed my marriage, but it had also set me free. The end.